Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Enter the Labyrinth podcast. This week I'm joined by RMB, Wonderland, and the newest member of Team Labyrinth, S4iler, or Pierre Marc, which I can't say correctly because I'm not French, but we're happy to have you here with us. So this last weekend, we had DLC Dallas, where both RMB and S4iler made top cut, and then S4iler made top 16, which qualified him for Continentals, which is awesome. We now have 4 of 9 players on the team qualified for Continentals, which is amazing. I'm not one of them, but holding out hope.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
You just gotta actually go to a DLC and maybe you'll qualify.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be going to Vegas, and hopefully I'm not the last person to qualify. That would be depressing, but still, I'm very proud of the
Not
team.
qualifying would be more depressing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the alternative is not going to Continentals.
I'm pretty sure Bivens was in 17th or 18th place,
17th.
and he got
17th.
pushed back. And I got 18th place, but it was at the first event. So it's my card's sold for more, but at the end of the season, when people in 20th place are getting queues because the same people are crushing events, I'm gonna be really sad if I haven't made one of those.
Yeah, it's tough.
You can see you've put thoughts on this.
So I think it's how I play the game. I think of the worst scenario, and I'm like, how can I play around that? And well, my tortured mind is like, what's the worst case scenario? Oh, you just don't get in. But just to tease you, you got close.
Really close.
Do better, I guess.
Yeah. R&B, you made the Twitter post, and you're like, oh, the best players will continue to make top cuts, and I'm just like, wow, I've not made a top cut yet. So,
well, I mean, if you think about it, if you think about it, I mean, look, okay, so Zach Bivens, he's gone to 3 of them. He has made day 2 in all 3 of them.
Amazing.
Kapu has gone to 3 of them. He has made day 2 of all 3 of them. I've gone to 2 of them. I've made day 2 of both of them. You consistently see that the same group of individuals are either consistently in contention in the last round to make day 2, or just the same people are making day 2. I think that there's realistically probably about 100 or so individuals that I think you will see just continue to rotate and cycle in. There'll also be some people that have some breakout events. There's a lot of new people that are coming into the game. I had the pleasure of meeting one of them in round 8, which he took an intentional draw. I'm gonna butcher his name and I'm gonna apologize for that in advance, but he's a professional Yu-Gi-Oh player from Germany. His name is Din Kang Pham. Dude, super cool, really, really down to earth, very, very competent. He was playing red blue, and he had a really, really spicy card in the list that I really, really liked. He was playing the Dig a Little Deeper. And I was like, man, that brings me back to my Magic days.
Yep.
Love me some dig through time.
Yeah, we've shouted about this the whole day actually today, me and him, about it's because he played against the winner, Ed, right? And so it was recorded. I think it was top 16 match, yes. And game 2 was really, really interesting to analyze. And so I went through all of his plays with him. And so, yeah, it was nice speaking to him. Really, really cool guy.
That's awesome. And I agree. I do think that you'll see a lot of the same people doing decently well, but it's one thing to be getting close to top cut every time, but still having to get either top 8 or top 16, depending on the size of the event, just to qualify for the Continentals tournament is that's a very, very high bar. I mean, I don't know, what do we have, 50 people so far this year qualified for
yeah, there's 48 places that were given, but then some of those were got there twice, so I think it's 51 total.
Well, it pushed back.
Well, they passed it down. So for Chicago, for instance, so Zach Bivens was in 17th place, which notably the reason he was in 17th place was because he played out an additional round in day 1 to secure first seed. He made it to his top 16 game, ended up losing the top 16 games, which put him in 17th place. And Capu ended up getting another top 16, which I believe he went on to get into top 8 and then lost in the first round of top 8. But because Capu was already qualified, it passed down to the next eligible person, which ended up being Zach Bivens in 17th place.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Zach got 17th place because the person he lost to won the event. That's why I got 18th place, is because the person I lost to got 2nd place.
I thought it was based on Swiss standings. I thought it was Swiss.
I thought it was based on Swiss standings too.
Because he was
could be strength of schedule, but
I was not ranked. I was on the bottom. I was not the second highest ranked person in the top 32 to get that, but I did lose to the person who got 2nd place. So if they do it the way that Magic Gathering does it, then that's why it is. So I don't know for sure.
I see what you're saying.
Maybe someone in the comments could educate us.
I'm not sure, yeah, but either way, no, we're super glad to have you, Pierre, obviously on the team. It's kind of awesome that we. So I guess I wasn't there. So did we? When did we extend the invite? Was it like during day one or?
Oh well, actually, I was. So I did coaching for Aaron back the beginning of set 4 for Chicago, and he said that he wanted to push for me, and then it just stayed like that. And I had other offers, and so I reached out to him again, saying, "Well, if it's still on the plate, I would choose you guys." And so when they won, I was doing good in the week already, but it wasn't over. I was already like having it secured or anything. Like I think it was 4th round or something, right? And
during the lunch break, I think
Ryan said like, "Yeah, we want you." So
okay, yeah, because I know the conversation started like the day before, maybe 2 days before or something, and then Aaron said something along the lines of, "Well, he'll show you guys in Dallas or whatever," which I thought was.
Did he say that?
He did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He did
say that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I knew I had a lot of pressure on that day to perform because everybody was telling me, "Oh, you're gonna make day 2," and I'm like, "Okay, well, people really believe in me. I should be performing today," and I'm glad I did. I guess
it's hard. Like, there's more to it than being good. Like, I'll just complain again. I've played in 18 matches. I've had 11 unfavorable matchups, like 4 even matchups, and like 3 favorable matchups in 2 DLCs. So it's just sometimes you kind of get screwed by the pairings, and there's not a lot you can do. So it's 100% tough.
Agree. Yeah, I want to say I got really lucky. Like, of course, I made the right choice, but also I did another hour of coaching on that deck, so I couldn't just get out of it. I'm like, I need to tell people that this is a good deck, and you just need to know how to pilot it. And so it was a bold choice because of in Bochum, the red purple did knocked out red blue really, really heavily, right?
A lot.
Yeah. The conversion rate in red blue was absolutely abysmal in Bochum. So, but the more I tested after this, I wanted to get, like, of course, a better matchup against red purple, and I tried many different cards. And I was testing with Moyen because he's also on red blue. And I was able to go 4 and 5 against him in testings, right? And so I'm like, okay, against one of the best players, right, in the game, if I can split games against red purple, that's good enough for me because everything else is going to be mostly favorable. Because I really believe that the green steel matchups is heavily favored into for red blue, and I think it's green steel worst matchup. And people that I faced, they all told me the same, right? So, but the problem is that the red blue players are not all made equal, right? And that's why I've done that many coaching, right? It appears to be easy because you just want to go ramp and go big, but the decisions in the mulligans and the inking are extremely important, and they're not very forgiving either. and you don't know if you did something wrong most of the time. So it's really hard for you to reflect on your mistakes when you're playing that deck. So it's just a hard process to know how to play it. But anyway, so I was kind of happy with like a red purple matchup to go just split and win against the worst ones, right? 2-0 the medium red purple players and try to split against the better ones. And so my strategy was to have a decent plan on the draw, and that was made possible with the 2-drop evasive Pegasus. So the goal is to play the Pegasus to answer the Flynn on 2, and after that you play the Quill on 3. And so that's why I didn't want to go down on Quills. Also, I thought there was going to be more wheels than people would think, because I'm going to talk about that later. But so, and then you play Medusa or Maui to answer the Sisu. So you have a really clean 2, 3, 4 into their best 2, 3, 4 line, right? And so after this, you just want to find Dime, Tamatoa, and Hiram's, like as much of those as possible, and you should be able to win even on the draw. On the play, we didn't need any tech cards, basically, because we were already favored on the play by playing 1 jump into Grammatala. The Grammatala is much more important. Basically, you cannot play Hiram on 3 against Red Purple because the 1 power is, they can just brawl it, and if they add the Flynn on 2, you're down like 10 lore already. So you want to play 1 jump ahead into Grammatala, and then like you can even play a Maui or like sing Alpha Algo and stuff like that, and you're in good shape from there. So I was fine going into that matchup. I also added Hercules because a lot of the times you need to play to the board to deny the early Flynn lore, but also to make sure that they don't play a castle, right? They don't feel comfortable playing their castle. So the Pegasus was also helping with that, since you can exert that character, do whatever you want with it. And if they play a castle in front of Pegasus, then they play into your Maui, right? So most of the good players won't be playing their castle early if you have a character out. So the Pegasus was doing all these things, and it was also isolating your big characters against Speaking Undisputed and Lady Tremaine. So it was doing all these things. But then you would play to the board, and they would eventually need to play Be Prepared, and Be Prepared was really, really good against Red Blue. And from there they can play to so that they play the castle lines, and you could punish it with the Hercules, right? So the reasoning behind the Hercules is that you can one-shot their castle immediately once they play it. And Maui is you couldn't do that, because if you play the Maui into their castle, deal 6, pass the turn, and they deal with your Maui, you're dead, right? It's over for you unless you have the second or third Maui, whatever.
And no one wants to attack with the Flaversham to take down a castle with a Maui, right?
So what you needed to do before having the Hercules in was to put a Tala or a Medusa, whatever that is, just to put something on board, and then on the next turn you play your Maui. You make them guess, oh, does he have the Maui, right? And so maybe he doesn't deal with your other shitty characters. And so that was the strategy, but it was not very good, right? But now with the Hercules, we have a way to just deal with it one shot. Vitalosphere, one of Vitalosphere was also for this, since as long as it's in the bin, you in a Tamatoa with 10 ink, you just take it back, use it immediately, and have a clean way to break the castle with the Tamatoa. The other tech card was Grainstone Dragon. So I realized that Grainstone Dragon was, people were cutting quills for it, but that was just wrong, because it's not a RAM card, it's the draw engine card. And so going against Red Purple, I needed a 5th Hiram, or a 6th even, right? And so this was an uninteractable 5th Hiram that he could not deal with. And so the turn before Be Prepared, if I can use the Great Stone or a Dime, right, one of those two, to just not put more things on the board before they play their own Be Prepared. And then on the following turn, I start using the Great Stone and just stop inking from my hand for the remaining of the game. So basically, that was the plan against Red Purple. I didn't face a single Red Purple on the whole weekend. So I had literally 8 cards that I almost didn't play for the whole weekend, like in my deck. But
wild.
6 of them were inkable, right? So it didn't matter in the end, right? Because I took out 10 Sisus, the rare Sisus for the Pegasus, and I was inking those cards most of the time anyway, right? Against most of the deck. So it didn't cost me too much. Well, of course it didn't cost me much because I got into top 16 with like 52 cards basically, right?
Like, 48 if you consider the fact that develop your brain is just like filter.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna go with develop your brain again.
I don't know if we need to go down that road today.
Yeah. So basically, my matchups were Blue Steel. I 2-0'd Blue Steel on round 1. I 2-0'd Ember Steel on round 2. I 2-0'd Blue Steel on round 3. I 2-0'd Ember Steel on round 4. I went against Emerald Amethyst on round 5, and I won them. That was my biggest feat so far, right? Like I literally won the first game against my worst matchup. They were playing Merfolk, Flints, and 2-drop Queen of Hearts, and they were playing Pegasus, Shift, and Castle. I won on exactly 20 lore, and the top of their deck was a goat when they were on 90, right? Like,
boom.
When I talked to you about luck, right? Well, of course, I played well into that game, right? Exactly knowing my house is everything, but I also got a bit lucky, right? If the ad found the goat a turn earlier, I would have lost. And I almost won the second game, by the way, because I Hercules their castle, and their mouth just dropped. They were like, they had 1 card in hand, and I one-shot their castle. They're like on 14 or 16 lore. And they're like, oh, I might lose that second one.
That's funny. It's funny to me because I think, the Hercules tech had come out. I think people who were following the metagame closely were aware that Hercules was a card a lot of these decks were playing prior to this tournament. So I'm surprised that it caught him that far off guard. But
yeah, well,
like a 1 or 2 of.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it can be like a one-off or something, but here I decided to put 2 because it was one of the best deck cards against red purple, basically. But the way that I got these 2 Hercules in, because I cut 2 Maui for it, so I still have 4 Mauis, is that I needed to take out the ice blocks. So that was and you'll see later on where this might have been like a decision that I could regret, but we'll talk about a few rounds later. So after this, I was 4-0-1, so I couldn't draw. Like I needed to win on another 2-0, and I faced one of Zan's friends who was on green steel, and I 2-0'd him. And from there, I split. I beat the last 3 rounds. One of those were red purple, but didn't have to play against them. Day 2, I 2-0'd Travis Tavern, who was on green steel. And I knew, by the way, in the morning when we woke up and we saw the deck list, we did the math with me and my roommates, and I was on green steel, green steel, green steel, or blue steel for my next 3 matches. So I was feeling really confident, right? Like really confident in my deck choice, really confident into like decks that I know how to play against and stuff like that. And so I 2-0'd Travers and then 2-0'd Braden. Yeah, Braden. Who was on green steel also. And then on top 16, I was feature match, but the second feature match, so they only showed my third game against Blue Steel, against Steve. Game 1, I dealt with 3 Tamatoas, and he had the 4th one for the win. So it was super rough. Like I at one point I had like a big Sisu and a Hiram. I quested it with Hiram, break a popsicle, draw 2 cards, and then I didn't have the answer for the Tamatoa, so I sang how far I'll go with my big Sisu, even though like I was close on lore, right? Like to be winning. And I found the dragon to be able to deal with their third Tamatoa. And I was like, that's it. I've won that game, right? And they add the third one. And I was like, no, the fourth one, sorry. I'm like, no shot, man. No shot you have the freaking fourth Tamatoa. I dealt with the first 3. Second game, I go on the play. I easily ran over him, like as I usually do against Blue Steel. I deal with everything they do basically, and I put so much things on the board. They don't have singers, so they can't realistically deal with what I have on board, and so they don't find the dime Tamatoas or whatever before I can close out the game. And game 3, he was on the play. He goes Argy's Quill, Tinkerbell, Sing a Whole New World, play a second Quill, Sing a Whole New World.
Yeah.
No, he played he played the Cogsworth, Sing a Whole New World, and he had like, and then he found just like 1-drop items and 2 dime and 2 Tamatoa fell, and it was over. Like I couldn't do anything. Like there was absolutely 0 cards that I could have drawn that would have made a difference. So that was the end of my streak. I went 16-3 total in the tournament, just to put like perspective on how you need to perform to go at these in top 16, right? 16-3, like that's 84% win rate.
It's tough.
And I couldn't get the Mickey, but yeah,
I mean,
I was really happy with my run, and I faced all steel, right? So why did Red Blue did well? Because I knew that steel was a great choice for the weekend. By the way, sure, I would have still played it most likely, even though it would have been like a medium choice because I'm so used to play the deck. But I almost switched to blue steel, and I told myself, if I'm about to switch to blue steel, I'm not the only one who thinks that, right? So
that's why I played what I played.
So let's play a deck that is good against steel, because I think there was a lot of people talking about like, oh, Ember Steel is back. Ember Steel is doing well against red purple. It's doing red against green steel. So there was all these little like behind the scene like talk about all these steel decks doing well. Of course, we knew green steel was gonna be the most the best performing decks because that deck is a bit broken. But and I knew that red purple were gonna suffer from all of that, right? Everybody prepared. Like blue steel put Hargies, right? And Ember Steel put even more heavy questers, right? They put Baloo and flutes and all these sorts of things that red purple have a hard time to deal with, right? And so I knew that playing red purple was going to be real hard that weekend, and it was. The conversion rate was the worst of the top 4 of the top 5 decks, right? It was real bad. So I think I made a good deck decision, and I think I got lucky with my pairings as well.
That's what it takes. I mean, yeah, like you said, 84% win rate for games is like, it's just unsustainable no matter who you are. I mean, especially when you consider that those last rounds, especially like in Top Cut, are against other people who are putting up those win rates. Like it's not random people at locals that you're playing against at the end of these tournaments. You know, it's other people at or close to that skill level most of the time. So yeah, it's obviously very impressive. We're proud of you. It's great.
I mean, green steel was so strong, right? That I think, and I don't want to say that about my opponents in general, like, but I think a lot of this top cut that were playing green steel were not necessarily at the level that you would accept in top cut.
Watching coverage, I would agree with you.
A broken deck. They just had a broken deck, right?
I do think that
I did not watch coverage.
I do think some people who have been playing a lot of green steel this format are in for a rude awakening when they stop being carried by their deck. Maybe that's mean, but I have had that feeling.
You sound so uppity right now. You're just like these fools with their Bucky carrying them around.
I've seen a lot of people do really well with green steel despite visibly being not having a skill level commensurate with the results they've received. So I mean, there's no nice way to say it. But I do think it's a deck so powerful, and Bucky as a card, as a 2-drop, is like by far the most powerful 2-drop we've ever had in the game. It's you don't have to play perfectly to win with that deck. It's just that powerful. So I do think, there are obviously many great green steel players. Plenty of the people playing green steel. Yeah, like who's gonna look at Brian Cortada and be like, he's carried by green steel? Like, no, he was doing well before that. Obviously, like,
Impact
there are plenty
as
of
well.
great players.
Like,
yeah,
like
but
there
some
were some good
people,
players in day 2 playing green steel for sure, and some were just like average people who got Bucky Diablo carried. I mean, that was a big reason why I decided not to play green steel, was my experience in Chicago, where like, yes, it was definitely luck based, like where my opponents 80% of the time had turn 2 Bucky Diablo and I had it like 40-50% if even. And it's like, you're not going to win those mirrors, right? Like, I can play my heart out, but like, they're going to start off with such a huge advantage that like, there's not enough like skill checks. It's more like, do they have it checks? And if they have it over and over again, like, there's not much you can do to catch back up. Outside of Ursula 3, which is why I definitely played that in my lists. But as S4iler was saying, I was actually really worried that a lot of people would come to that same conclusion about the meta, and Red Blue would be like, you know what, hold my beer, like, I'm back, baby. Oh, you thought you could play Amber Steel? Fool, I'm gonna get you. And like, I was terrified in my first round sitting down. I think there was 3 Amber Steel players, and I'm just like, no, I need these Red Blue players to lose in the first few rounds, so I don't have to play against them. And then you're talking, you played against Amber Steel once or twice in day 1?
Twice. Yeah.
Twice, yeah.
I want to say it's not. It's obviously a bad matchup for Ember Steel, but I think a good Ember Steel player can easily split against like a medium Red Blue player, like easily, I think, and can even 2 of them. I made some plays against my round 4 opponents that I think most of the people would not have made. And I know that might sound like I'm bragging out or whatever, but I just want to be really transparent and saying that I'm most of the people would have lost that game. And so I just want to showcase. I'll just explain a little bit of the lines here. So I open up with 1 jump ahead, and they play bare necessities after it, taking out my off-fire algo, and I add a B prep and a brawl in the hand. On my turn, I draw Quill on my 3rd turn. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've been looking all day. This is fine. And here I need to decide whether to use the brawl against one of their early characters. I think they had Cinderella, Vanessa, and Shifu in play. Shifu is like a 05 for 3 that quests for 1, but if it's not damage, it quests for 3. He was playing the Look at This Family version. And so this is a really good card against Red Blue, by the way, because it quests for 3 and we're not damaging anything. So it's pretty threatening. So I have to decide between playing my Hiram, I had a Popsicle in play, or playing a Brawl, or playing the Quill, and go for the B prep line, right? And so I decide to present the B prep line, not necessarily committing to it, right? But at least representing it by playing the Quill and inking, so that I can go to 5, and next turn I can go up. I can go to 7 if I ink my whole hand and play it. And so on their turn, they think a bit of time. I think they sing "Look at This Family," and I can see that they're really concerned about the B prep, right? And so they play. I think they play me instead of the other Shifu that they got off of their Look at This Family. They play like not as committal, right, as they could. And so on the following turn, I have this Hiram and this Be Prepared, and I draw Medusa with 5 ink. And so I look at this, I'm like, okay, if I ink my Hiram and my Medusa into my B prep, I'm basically praying for the top of my deck. This is an out. I don't hate it, but his hand is pretty full, right? Since he sang Look at This Family on the last turn. So I don't like the idea of inking my my harem. So I go quill my B prep, use my Medusa on his Shifu so that his heavy questers is not there anymore. And from the rest of the game, he plays around Be Prepared the whole time, right? Even when I draw my next turn, I have my harem in the hand, right? I draw my next turn and I hesitate just to make him doubt about what I have, right?
Do I want to play this into my B prep? I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I play my harem, break my popsicle, and from there, I can develop my board. I draw more cards. I deal with what they're doing, and I end up like drawing a big Sisu, play a big Sisu, quest, win. And the whole time he was playing around to be prepared, right? And so I think most of the time, a lot of players would have made like slightly different decisions here, or not have played so that you infuse the fear in your opponents, right? And that could have made the difference between a 1-1 and a 2-0. And in these kinds of tournaments, it's the difference between going to day 2 and not going to day 2. So you still need to be playing at the top of your game always in every single decisions. And yes, I've been lucky, but also some of that is also decisions. Right.
All right. So Luke, so you played Steel Song. You had at least one kind of techie card that most people weren't playing, correct? You want to talk about that?
Mm-hmm. I played the Underworld instead of the Pride Lance. Although apparently the tech for this weekend was to just go on harps. I think almost every list that made day 2, I think, was on harps. I finished day 1 with 41 points. I lost to Sky, who I play with locally. He was on Blue Steel. And while I actually think my list is kind of favored in a Blue Steel, it's definitely not favored into his version of Blue Steel, which does not play a whole new world and plays Fire the Cannons instead of Baboom. So I did lose one game. The game on the play, I basically lost on his turn 1 when he cannoned my queen because my hand was like not great. I even needed to draw the queen shift line, but I drew the 5-drop quest or the 5-drop queen. Was like, oh, I can't even do it. And I like tried to maintain in that game, but I kind of got ink screwed while also just like not having any singers that he just didn't instantly kill. I think by turn 4 or turn 5, I think he had 2 cogs worth, and at that point, it's like, yeah, I'm done. Like I can't whole new world and double cogs. Like he can race me, I can't kill anything, and like he doesn't even have to quest with his cogsworth. Like that's basically how you beat Blue Steel. Is you put them in a position where they have to quest or challenge with the cogsworth to allow you to kill it, and then once that's dead, you can do whatever you need to. And so like it's hard to do that sometimes, but it also means having to kill their early characters pretty quickly. I'm pretty sure I beat Blue Steel one other time in the day. I could be wrong. I'll have to check Twitter. But it got kind of close, and then I won in the last round, even though like we weren't in contention for anything. Sadly, Sky also did not make it the next round. He got pretty poorly drawn against a good matchup for him too. I know how that feels. It's never good when you're like, oh, I get there, like you sit down, they open up, they ink a card from your best matchup, and you're like, I got this in the bag. You're just like, oh, nope, no, not like this, please, not like this. And then you lose game 1, and you just know, like, I think that's another thing I really do not like about best of 2 is when you go into your last round and you have to 2-0 and you lose game 1. And it's just heartbreaking, and you have to sit there and play another game. And it's like, oh, maybe I'm in contention for a promo, but who cares?
Worse, you're faced with the decision of just colluding and just give it to your opponent, right?
Yeah.
Which is a really bad feeling for in the last.
Exactly. Round. It's like, do I play to get a promo and to knock my opponent out from getting day 2?
Yeah.
Luckily, both times that I've been in that situation against Capu and Sky, when I lost game 1 and I knew it was like, oh, my contentions for day 2's out. I didn't have to get to that point, because I lost game 2. So I was never in a point where I was about to win and I was like, all right, you got it. Like, neither of us are in, but you can still get in. You won game 1. I never got there. They won it the hard way. You know, they basically had the game in control about halfway through. I mean, I was doing pretty good against this guy in game 2, but like there was a point that was like, boom, you know. It was never fully decided, but then he took control. I think it was like a double swords or Tinkerbell swords in a turn or something. I mean, basic blue steel board wipe things.
Yeah. All right, R&B, tell me about blue steel.
It's the deck. It's good. I like it. No, so like leading up to the event, I was like, man, there's gonna be so many people on blue steel. Let me put all these like tech cards in for the mirror. And quite literally the night before, I was like, man, these cards suck. Like, I don't want to play these cards. They started like negatively impacting the green steel matchup, which like for the most part was just an incredibly favorable matchup. And like I am blue steel. Like, I'll just like beat my opponent. So like I took the night before, I took out all of my blue steel like mirror tech cards and just like went back, huh? Hades. They were Hades. I had 2 Hades in the deck. And I had trimmed some of the other uninkables. Like I trimmed an Along Came Zeus and I think a Grab Your Swords or something like that for 2 Hades so that I could maintain the same uninkable count and like not push myself into like even with Fishbone Quill decks, like I typically will not go over 16 uninkables just because like there's critical inks that you like need to hit to like play the game. And I've played up to 17, I've even played 18, and every time like some number more than 0 of my games, like I'll get ink screwed where I just like miss a critical turn because like I didn't have an ink.
I want to say against green steel, Bucky, you specifically don't want to do that, right? Every ink you're missing can be like your death sentence. So.
Oh yeah. No shot. Like you need, absolutely not. So like I take it all out, and then like round one, day 1, sure enough, I pair into the mirror. And like not only do I pair into the mirror, I pair into the mirror with no wheels. So like they're on like the Maurice's workshop, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. I ended up like fighting really, really hard to get a 2-0. I did end up getting a 2-0. I think the only reason why I got a 2-0 is because like in game 1, my opponent was on the play. They go like turn 1, ink a Cogsworth, play a Popsicle, and I'm like, yeah, keep that same energy. Yeah. Turn 2, he goes ink a Cogsworth, play a 1-jump. I'm like, yeah, we're in there now. So like I just end up like going 1-jump into like Fishbone Quill Smee, and then I went Cogsworth on 4, Cogsworth on 5, and like we grinded for a little bit. I just like I got a 3rd Cogsworth, and then just like turned everything sideways every single turn and just was able to outrace him before he could like establish crabs and dimes. Like I ended up inking a dime off of the Fishbone Quill just because like I didn't need it and I wanted to like play a beast to blow up his Fishbone Quill and play like the 3rd Cogsworth and like just present too much on the board that like he just couldn't deal with. Game 2, I was on the play, so like I just got to like wheel into wheel, and I got to do everything. My opponent didn't get to do anything. Like I got 2 Cogsworth down again and just turned stuff sideways. Round 2 paired into green steel, ended up 2-0ing it. It was like pretty easy. Round 3, I pair into another blue steel mirror, and what do you know? They're not on wheels. He was on like 3 big Simbas and like 3 Hades, and I'm like, brother, like this is just like not it. So like I win game 1, ended up losing like a really, really close nail biter game 2. Like I was a turn away from winning the game. I needed like 1 piece of critical removal. I ended up like wheeling into wheel in the same turn and just like didn't find one of the 3 pieces of removal that I needed. So I ended up losing off of that. So I ended up splitting that game. I was 2-0-1 at that point. Going to round 4, ended up playing against Emerald Steel. Crushed it game 1. Game 2, they just had like the absolute stone nut, and like I was on the draw, and like there was nothing that I could have done any differently to like prevent just like I got nut drawn. Like I lost that game. It's like split game. So like I'm 2-0-2 at this point after round 4. Like I'm not feeling great. And then like round 5, I pair into Ruby Sapphire, which like some people would say that is a positive matchup for Ruby Sapphire. And I 2-0'd the crap out of that deck. Like wasn't even close. Like I was like, answer me if you can. I was wheeling and dealing. Like I got diamond play before my opponent did. They like played a dime at one point, and I was like, Rise of the Titans wheel. Like it wasn't even remotely fair. Like I had in game 1, I went Popsicle on 1, Smee on 2. On turn 3, instead of playing the Fishbone Quill, I played a second Smee and a second Popsicle, and like just turned both of those sideways for the first 4 turns of the game and just got 14 lore off of them. And like that single-handedly won me the game before I like wheeled into a dime, established the dime, and then like activated the dime twice and won. That was literally just the game. And then round 6, I played against Red Purple. Ended up 2-0ing Red Purple. Another matchup that people said like, you're not favored. I was like, cool, I'm gonna play this Argus on 2 and go ahead, play your Flynn. I do not care. Argus was the all-star in my deck for like the entirety of the weekend. Like the card was just absolutely nuts. Played Red Purple again in round 7. 2-0'd that one again, although in game 2, like my opponent made some like pretty obvious misplays, unfortunately. He was like relatively new to the game. He came from Dragon Ball. I guess he was like a top competitor in like the Dragon Ball Super card game. So like he made some like really, really unfortunate misplays in our game. There were 2 big ones. There was one where like the board was Argus, Smee, Cogsworth, and he had a Sisu at a castle. And I have 1 card in hand. And he goes, cast Brawl. I said, sure. Target? He goes, that one. And he points at Cogsworth. I said, try again. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, it has ward. You cannot target Cogsworth. And he's like, well, I can't target the other 2. Does that mean? And I just looked at him and shook my head. I was like, yeah. So he had to like brawl his own Sisu, which like that lost him that game. And then
like that lost. That's how the rules in this game work. Is probably one of my least favorite things about the rules in this game.
So like that lost him game 1.
He made a mistake from it being ward, but like it's not even you sharking him. It's like literally like he's played it, he's paid for it. He has like a judge would be like he kills this guy.
Oh yeah, sure.
The judge wouldn't be like, would you like him to put it back? No, the judge would be like, his guy's dead. It has to die.
Yeah, so and that is like wrong, but I think that the way this works in Lorcana, right, is that you pay for the spell and then targets are chosen upon resolution. So it's like it's already happening by the time you choose
in the
targets.
bag.
There's no backing out, so
Marble's in the bag.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. So like that wasn't even like the worst misplay, but like there was a point in game 2 where like I was at, I don't know, I think I was at like 7 lore. Like irrelevant. I had like 6 items in play, including a dime. I had a dime in the yard. I had nothing in play because my opponent had just B prepped. I like play a Tamatoa, activate dime, go to like 13, pick up the second dime from my discard. So like my opponent now knows that I have a dime in play and I have another dime in my hand with a crab that's just questing for 1 billion. And he like has a Tremaine in play. He goes and he's got like I think 12 ink at this point. He goes play goat, play fox, bounce my goat, replay goat, and then like looks at his Tremaine. He's like,
whoops.
Yeah. So like, cool. I'll quest for 21. Like I mean, I got like that was lucky.
Lucky,
like
babe.
Yeah, like my opponent misplayed in both game 1 and game 2, and both of those misplays cost him each of those games. So like I ended up getting a 2-0. That put me at 5-0 and 2. And then like the last 2 rounds, I just ID'd to just guarantee a day 2 because like why not? And then so like we get the pairings at like midnight, or we get the deck list at like, it was like 12:30, and I was like laying in bed, like couldn't really sleep because I was anticipated and excited, and like I hear my phone buzz and I look and it's an email and it's got all the deck lists. So like I look, turns out I was playing against Jeremy Bertarioni. So if you guys don't know who that is, he was the 2019 SCG Players Champion for Magic. He's one of Zan Said's best friends. He was on Lotus Box with him. Super cool dude, by the way. Like, yo, shout out to Jeremy. Like, I actually really, really like this dude a lot. Like, he's funny. I think he's like a comedian or something too. But anyways, like it's a red purple matchup. So like I'm looking through his deck list and he has 0 B King Undisputed and exactly 1 Tremaine, and I'm like, oh, this is just like actually free. Like I don't have to play around B King Undisputed, and there's only 1 Tremaine. And in the B King Undisputed slot, he's got 3 Pan's Shadow Finder. I'm like, yeah, this is literally the easiest match of the entire weekend. And I proceed to get O2'd due to like the lowest variance possible. So let's take game 1 and game 2 and combine them. And between those 2 games, I saw a total of 0 Popsicles, 2 Fortispheres, 1 Hiram, and 0 Wheels. Like in game 2, the turn before I was going to die was the first Whole New World that I saw. So like I functionally just did not get to play the game, unfortunately. And he drew I think he drew like 25 more cards than me in game 1, and it was still a close game. Like it was still super, super close. Game 2 was just like I was on the play. Like I just bricked so incredibly hard and just didn't do anything for multiple turns. So like I ended up losing in top 64, but like I got lucky in round 7. Like
got lucky when it mattered.
I got lucky
when it mattered.
Like I got lucky to get to day 2. Like I knew what it was. There was nothing that I couldn't have played any differently to like change the outcome of those matchups. Like I ended up looking at my deck after game 1 too, and like I just wanted to see like where were the wheels. The bottom exact 3 cards were Whole New World, and the 7th from the bottom was the 4th Whole New World. I was like, yeah,
you gotta stop. I
wasn't winning this game.
Like you gotta stop looking what you one jump. You gotta stop looking at your deck after it's over. You just can't look.
Yeah, there was another game in day 1 where like I was like fishing for a dime, and like I drew like 20 cards in 1 turn and just like couldn't find the dime. And like after the game, I like look at my Inkwell. I cast exactly 2 1-jump aheads that game, and both of my dimes were in my Inkwell off the 2 1-jumps. I was like, are you like, I can't recreate this scenario ever again. Like, that actually happened.
Man, I remember playing with Hearted Speedy in Red Blue. Like, the amount of times you'd accidentally ink something you didn't want.
Bro, it's a risk. There is some amount of risk.
It's equally likely to be the card after the one you ink.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like you're equally likely to be digging yourself closer to it than you
right. Math and
ex
post
facto. Ex post facto, I get that it like, I got unlucky, but
I shouldn't look.
That's why you don't look.
I shouldn't look. I shouldn't look, but like I had to know.
Don't let you convince that like you should do it, guys.
Oh no. It's still right. It still doesn't. Yeah, it's still not going to convince me. Like, arguably, the cards that I played and the way that I played them were so good that like the 1% downside of it doing exactly what it did is not reason enough for me not to play them, because of the amount of success that I've had when the card works the way it's intended to work. Like, I'm not going to go like say, 1 jump is bad. No, the card's busted. Like, the way that I beat Green Steel is I was like, Popsicle on 1 jump on 2, Hiram on 3. Yep. Nice Bucky. Like, I had a Hiram against one of my Green Steel opponents that drew me a total of 12 cards. 12 cards off 1 Hiram.
And we're like banning and we're nerfing Bucky.
Dude made me discard 5 cards in 1 turn, and he goes, listen to this. This is the crazy part. Dude made me discard 5 cards in 1 turn, and he goes, how many cards do you have in hand? And I count, and I'm like, 8. And he goes, 8? how do you have 8 cards in your hand? I'm like, dude, this Hiram's been questing every single turn with popsicles. Like, I don't know what you want from me, man.
Yeah.
He just like casually had two Flins in play that just like did nothing. I was like, nice.
Yeah, like you're speaking of variants. I had in my match against Red Purple that I lost in 2 games, it was 3 or 4 aerials that whiffed. And one of them was on the last turn that if it hit literally anything outside of a whole new world, which it didn't even hit that, I win the game basically in turn like 3 of 5 in turns. Instead I whiffed and I couldn't kill anything and they won the game. They had Goat Bounce Goat to get exacties. But like I'm still gonna play Ariel. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh, Ariel, my friendship with you is over. Get out of here. Like cards.
Didn't you like only play like 12 hits in set 1 and you still played Ariel?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm playing 19 now. It's like
like
we were.
He played.
We really were.
And I was
12 hits.
Some of us were playing Hakuna Matata, so we had more than 12, but
yeah, and you were wrong. You were wrong. I would rather miss than have to draw that for my draw on a normal draw. I'd rather just give one up.
It's just an inkable. That was all it was. But back then we had so many bad cards that you could do it.
That card said, search the top of your deck for a land. Go. Like, and that's all.
See, I played it to search for one of the best cards in the deck.
Though, too. I played Kronk and Cerberus too, so like I had like some games where like I'd fire off a Hakuna Matata on like 3 characters and just be like, yeah.
You played Ducky mid.
The Ducky
played like 16 or something. Like,
yeah, I played a lot of Ducky mid in set 1.
So I was playing more songs than Ducky played in his deck, and I still whiffed.
I mean, it's just like it's something that's going to happen, you know, when you play a card like that.
Definitely.
There's no avoiding it. I mean, Mufasa's miss, and they're usually playing, 56 plus characters. It'll happen for sure. It's just the way it is. But Bucky's dead, so Bucky's gone. The next, the next Disney World challenge.
Not for Bologna. Not for Bologna.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
not for us Americans.
Yeah, sorry.
Wait. There's a Euro challenge that still has to deal with the Bucky.
Yep. Yes, August 1st, I think, or 3rd.
Something like that.
They should have made it the same format as Toronto.
The 3rd.
So that both continents at least have one of those. I agree. Because now half of the world doesn't care about Toronto. So like it's kind of weird, right?
It is
really weird. What they should have done is made Dallas the last event. So the side events on Sunday, Bucky nerf.
I agree,
and then that way, all of the set champs
sooner the better. I don't think anyone's like, no, don't you hurt my Bucky? Don't you hurt my
Bucky? It's banned tomorrow when they release that announcement, like Bucky dead tomorrow. I'd be like, great, love it.
I would have been pissed.
Like,
I would have been so angry.
Who don't really.
I played a deck to beat Bucky.
That's true.
Same.
It would have been. It would have been rough, but.
Same. I think we all played a deck to beat Bucky. And the funny thing is we were all on different decks nonetheless.
And
like,
yes, and I don't know. I went undefeated against it, like 6-0.
Don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
I went 5-1 against it. I did split a game when they just like had the nut draw, and I was like, yeah, there's nothing I could do. Like
I was drawing hot. I even beat like the worst offensive draws from Green Steel. I won against double Bucky, triple Diablos, and I won against Bucky 4 Diablos, and I won against I was crushing everything. I was drawing big Sisus at the right time every game. My opponents were crushed right every time.
So Bucky's gone. Let's talk about the metagame, because it is going to be interesting. We're going to have a unique metagame for exactly one major tournament, which is a very, very unique scenario, and I'm curious, if you guys have any thoughts. Are who's all playing in Toronto? Because
me and Luke.
Okay, so you two.
I think
I haven't thought too much about it. Yeah, but
Zenulus will be there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I haven't thought about it very much, because I just don't care. Like, it literally does not matter to me. So I haven't thought too much about it. But
I've been cooking.
Like, what do you guys think is going to be good? I've heard good things about like Amber Emerald. The Zach Bivens list. Someone copied it, I think. as well with it. But otherwise, I have no idea.
Cuts, yes.
I think the Amber Emerald deck is an even worse offender than like the Bucky Green Steel deck in like unfun to play against.
It is
Oh yeah.
I don't know that it's worse, but it's like in contention.
It's worse for me. So like, here's the thing. I love Blue Steel. It has one fatal weakness, and that card is Bare Necessities. So like, when Bivens cut Bare Necessities for World's Greatest Criminal Minds, I was like, yes, teach every Amber Steel player to like play this card. I was like, that's like the one card, because like it just takes everything. It takes the Fishbone Quill. It takes the whole new world. It literally just takes everything that I want to play. So like, I think that like the Amber Emerald deck is absolutely by far the worst possible matchup for Blue Steel. If I were going to Toronto, I would not be playing Blue Steel. I would be playing something that can beat both Red Purple and the Amber Emerald deck. Like, hands down. Amber Emerald literally destroys Red Purple, destroys Blue Steel, destroys Red Blue. Red Blue is the one. Listen. So Red Blue is the one deck that can come back with like a good top deck. Like it has both Sisu's and B preps, which are very, very good against the deck. Don't get me wrong, but you have to get a little bit lucky. Like the deck is just so good at putting your opponent on 0 resources in hand by like turn 4. It's so good at it.
I played this deck a little bit, a few different versions, and it's basically like the Bucky decks. Like if you're playing discard, everything you do can just be undone by a simple Be Prepared, by a simple Sisu. Yes, These matchups should be good. You start off fast, you hit them hard, you discard their hand. If they do not top deck something absurd in 2 to 3 turns, you win the game. Sometimes they hit Fishbone, 1 jump Fishbone. Good game. Well played, next game. Sometimes they're just like Flaversham, Popsicle, Flaversham, next turn Sisu. Get wrecked, scrub. And that's the problem with these discard decks, but that's fairish because we don't want a full blowout, and that's what I always said is like a single Be Prepared undoes Bucky. Why are we banning Bucky? Flaversham is the problem. I will die on that grave. Nerf the rat. Continue.
So like you have 2 players here who are going to sleeve Hiram in every single deck that they play until the card is banned. I am telling you that the card should probably be banned or nerfed. Put it in the dirt just like you did Bucky. The card is way too good. Like hands down, like the reason to play blue is Popsicle Hiram. Like no questions asked. Like the card is absurd.
I think there's 0 Sapphire decks in all top 64 if there's no iron. Like I think it's.
I agree.
Because there's absolutely no Sapphire anywhere. Like it's a dead color. Absolutely.
I completely agree. But I think that Hiram is too good. Like if you conversely, I know I've said this before, but like conversely, if you look at in the exact same set, the blue legendary Sisu, also a 4 cost, uninkable. It's a 2/4. It does not do what it does on play. It only does it on quest. And then you look at Hiram, a 1/6, inkable, on play and on quest. But it's only a rare. Like,
but RMB,
and you draw 2.
You have to have an item in play.
It's 2.
You have to have an item in play, RMB.
Sure, I play like 16 items, like
that draw cards when they come into play,
and 8 of them are popsicles. Like Hiram is a busted, and I mean busted card. Like it needs. I'll tell you what it needs. Here's like the nerf that I would suggest for Hiram. It would still be inkable. It would be a 1/4, and it would only activate on quest. I think that's reasonable.
What about make it a 3 cost, 1/3 that only draws a card. So it dies to anything, but it comes into play. If it comes into play, destroys, draws a card. Quest draws a card.
I don't think it's enough to sustain the high.
Judy Hops exists and it's not played.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would just be a bad Judy Hops. Yeah, but it would just be a bad Judy Hopps.
You use it again when you quest, so it'd be better than Judy Hopps.
It's not. Drawing
Judy has other utility because Judy's versatile and also quest for 2. So I mean, yeah, obviously I do think they're like somewhat comparable there, but I don't know. It's maybe a moot.
Yeah.
I think it only activating on questing.
I think you cannot touch Hiram if you don't put better draw cards in blue.
I agree.
So,
yeah, no, it's a necessary evil, but I think that the card was overtuned. I think from a design perspective, the card was designed like poorly. I think it's just too good.
It feels like they thought it would be harder to keep items in play than it is, but it is so free to get items you're happy to sacrifice in play. Fortisphere really, really put it over the top, but even like Vitalosphere and other cheap artifacts that Red Blue can play.
Yeah.
Just
with the ability to Tamatoa to like recycle them over and over and have this infinite draw engine. That's the real problem.
Yeah. Once you hit your Tamatoas, then it fuels back your Hirams, and then you're drawing 3 cards, and you have this 5/8 that like quest gets you card advantage. Very hard to deal with, right? It compounds. Like
for Flaversham, for me to not think Flaversham is just a little too good, we would need more cards like 3-drop Aladdin, but they would need to cost 1 and 2. Like a 1-drop 1/1 that when it quests it destroys an item.
Holy!
What?
Whoa,
brother! Why do you want to hurt me so bad?
I'm just saying, if you want, like, if you don't want to ban it and you don't want items to be insane. I mean, I want to play Lantern, but Lantern's almost turned off by Benja alone, right? But Benja's too slow for no one wants to Benja Popsicle, and that's one of the reasons why Flaversham is so good, because it's well, I mean, I'll do it. Okay, don't get me wrong. I mean, I do when it's good, but I feel I don't like it.
Hard-headed.
I don't go. Yes, I get to destroy this. Like, unless I'm like, oh, they're stuck and they need that, and this is gonna get them good. But like, when they have like a fishbone and 2 popsicles in play, it's like, I guess I'm making your 3-drop a 1 jump ahead, kind of, even though I know you have the Flaversham. Like, it's not great. It doesn't stop them. Like, Benja can kind of stop the Lantern Amber Steel. Like, Beast was super hot in the mirror in set 1. Like, that's good, but like, those things don't do enough against Red Blue and Blue Steel, I feel. Even though you play 1 or 2 in the mirror to slow down like a dime by a turn or 2, but theoretically, like, Tamatoa is going to rebuy that dime. Like, if given enough time, it doesn't actually stop it.
I think Aaron
you need a little more pressure.
Was playing it the right way in Atlanta. Right, he was playing Benja just to disrupt, just so that he can aggro out, like, quickly, just like to stop you in your track, right? So in combination with like a really aggressive list, I think the Benja can do just the right amount of disruption, because it's also 2 lore questers, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think
Aaron had Benja on 3 to hit my Fishbone Quill in all 3 of our games in Atlanta. And I still won. Like,
doesn't matter. You deserved it.
What?
That's what I'm saying.
Why did I deserve that?
It's not enough. Like, it's when you hit the Fishbone Quill on curve, or not.
I've already gotten the value.
Yeah,
like
when you hit the Popsicle on curve, because they went Popsicle 1 jump, and you know they have Flaversham, and you're like, oh, I'm on the play, I'm gonna get you. Like, that feels great, right? Obviously that feels good. But when they just play a Fishbone and then another Popsicle, you're like, oh, I spent 3 ink on a 2 lore threat on my big turn. And Steel Song, turn 3, you don't want to be playing a 3-drop character that destroys an item. Like, and then, like, yeah, it's a tempo play, and you'll win games sometimes when you do that. Like, and I'll do it because, like, the blowout chance is there, but it's not always there. I don't know. Like, I'm mostly saying I think it needs to be more of a multi-use character. Like, what if Benja just did quest for 1, and when it quested also just, like, it was an Aladdin and a Benja mixed together. Like, and that's kind of what I think is going to eventually have to happen.
That's what I'll tell you. But
yeah, that'd be nutty.
Yeah.
As the resident item enjoyer, like, I would hate for that card to exist in the game.
Benja has always been better against Blue Red than it is against Blue Steel, just because Blue Steel has more redundancy in terms of its popsicles and items just in general, but also like the hitting Fishbone is better against blue red because it significantly delays B prep and Sisu, whereas like the problem when you're an aggro deck against blue steel is Tinkerbell, which is still coming down much sooner. Like Benja doesn't, it buys you one turn, that's it.
It's also the Cogsworth on 4 is the real offender. Like,
well, yeah, I mean that's also bad, but like Tinkerbell is like lights out for a lot of Benja decks, whereas Cogsworth's just very hard to beat. I mean, when playing like Purple Steel or Steel Song or whatever, when they land a Tinkerbell, it's like, well, I tried. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know about Purple Steel. Purple Steel runs like all 4 of the Along Came Zeus. If you're not going like
that's true
exactly Cogsworth into Tinkerbell, then like you're probably fine. But like that's the real problem. Cogsworth on 4, Tinkerbell on 5. You're just like, what do I do here?
I mean,
and then God forbid like they have to grab your swords.
If you're like if you're like, oh, it's not so bad, you have exactly 4 outs in your entire deck to beat this card, I'm like, I'm not signing up for that. That's not where I want to be. God forbid I had to use one earlier on something else, or
It's fair.
But yeah, it's tricky. Hiram obviously very good. So okay, what do you guys think is going to be the best deck in Toronto? Like if you had to pick one deck that you think is going to spike the tournament.
Ember Steel.
Okay.
If so, I want to say Amber Steel, and the reason I want to say Amber Steel is because I think that there's going to be an overcorrection of people trying to play aggressive decks. So like I think you'll see like decks like Yellow Purple, Hyper Aggro kind of come back into favor, which like Steel Song's just going to eat decks like that up. The issue that I have is that I don't know that Amber Steel is beating Red Purple more than 50% of the time. That's my biggest bone of contention, because like I've played that matchup a ton from the Amber Steel side, and I just don't see it. I genuinely do not see it. Like maybe I'm just like a bad Amber Steel player now because I've been playing blue cards for so long, but like I don't see it like winning like 2-0ing Red Purple consistently enough.
I think Dallas showed that they are.
I mean, and maybe it's because maybe the Golden Harp's like just that good. Like maybe I was wrong. Sorry, Wochuk.
I do think it's close. Like there's no way. I mean, whatever deck wins that matchup, there's no way it's like massively favored in either direction. I think you're looking at like a 45-55 matchup one way or the other. So I don't.
All right, if you and your opponent are equal skill level, I think it's 55-60.
In favor of who?
Like,
you really think it's 60%? That's crazy to me. I just can't.
Depending on the builds,
I don't see that.
Like if they're playing 4 1-drops, it's a lot better.
That does
like,
help.
Yeah.
Don't play.
I would assume that most people are going to be on like. Yeah, I assume most people are going to be on like Ed's list with both the Magic Broom and the Turnabogs followers. Like I think Red Purple. I think he was on 7. I think he was on 7. I'd have to go back and look, but I think he was on 7. But like, I think that like Red Purple going down to 4 1-drops was a bit greedy, if I'm being like perfectly honest. I also don't think that the Flynn package is really that good. Like, unpopular opinion, like I think that because
unpopular. I don't think it's that unpopular. I think the Red Purple players know it's bad, but they play it as a necessary evil for certain matchups.
Keep Red Blue down,
Okay. Kendall said that in the mirror match, if your opponent has a Flynn and goes Flynn Sisu and you're not playing Flynns, like, because you're not playing Sisu if you're not playing Flynn, you just lose that matchup basically on the spot. So, like, even though it's kind of bad everywhere else, it's, like, very important in the mirror, and it's probably good against Red Blue. What were you saying, Sailor?
Yeah, so I think in a 2-game format, you need to do unfair things, and I think Red Purple found a way to do that, and it's so hard for them to 2-0 consistently. And so having a really consistent line on the play when you don't know you're playing against is so important in 2-game format.
Yeah.
Because you're mulliganing on the blind. And if you mulligan for a line that is really broken, which I think Flynn Sisu is, right? It's really broken on the play. You up your chance of 2-0ing like by a lot. And
that's fair. Yeah. Like I can definitely agree to that. I think like Yellow Green is going to be a really, really popular deck. I think Red Purple is going to be a really popular deck. I think because yellow-green is going to be as popular as it is, like I think that blue-steel is going to have a hard time. I would assume that there should be, like, especially if you're watching this, like red-blue's probably great for this meta. Like I think that it's like a relatively reasonable meta call. If I were going, I don't even know if I want to say it, but like if I were going, I would be on Emerald Amethyst. Like I'd be playing Emerald Amethyst. Like simple as that. I'm doing the bounce house. Like I'm playing Merfolk Flynn. Like I'm doing it.
If I had to play tomorrow, I would play I'd probably just play the exact 60 I played on stream today. Green Steel. And I would lose to Sailor if he played Amber Steel. But if he played Red Blue, I think I think I beat him, but maybe I get crushed. If you're on the play, that's not enough. I think maybe it is. It's like if I'm on the play. Did I say you're on the play? I mean, if you're on the draw. Okay. So like if I go turn 1 Merfolk and then turn 2 Flynn and then turn 3 Diablo or Ursula, like you're what? Drawing a card on turn 1, turn 2 1 jump, turn 3 Sisu, killing a Merfolk. I'm still gaining lore again, setting up to
killing the Flynn. You have to kill the Flynn because then the Sisu can attack.
Sure, yeah. I'm dumb. Yeah, the Flynn.
I don't know. I think it's a pretty good line, especially threatening the shift 2 turns later.
Yeah, because now you shift on 2 turns later.
Yeah, I mean, if that 1/1 Sisu's in play, like I am playing like an Ursula 3-drop, so like at that point I'm playing the song removal.
Yeah.
So that
I was thinking about the Emerald Ember, but yeah.
So are you going back to like a Prince John list then?
Yeah, I showed it on stream today. It's basically my set 3 list. I cut
Prince John enjoyers.
They're just
I cut the Daisy Duck,
frankly.
The 4-drop that when it comes into play, you discard a card, or when it quests, they discard a card. I cut that, and I jammed in the Diablo package basically. And I
you still playing like Friar Tucks?
Another card. Yeah, 4 Friar Tucks, and you know what? Yeah. It actually felt pretty good.
I think.
Like, I honestly think expected.
I think both of them. I think like the Daisy Duck and the Friar Tucks are like both still just reasonable cards. Well, maybe the Daisy's a little bit worse because of Brawl, but like,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, I had to add 8 cards. I had to add 4 Diablo and 4 Baby. I'm playing 16 songs. I think that's enough.
And you're not on Cove?
Not on Cove yet. It is the one card that I was like, I kind of want to add this, but I don't know what I'd cut, honestly. Probably a character, probably a Friar Tuck, maybe a Beast Tragic Hero. Like with Diablo, I don't know if I need to max them. Maybe I do.
If you're expecting Green Steel to mostly be dead, and like after the Bucky ban, I assume the vast majority of Green Steel players will switch off Green Steel. I'm thinking maybe the Cove's just not that important. It's not the card I want to put in my deck if I don't know the metagame.
It's still good against red decks though. Like it stops Sisus, it stops Medusas. Like it's still just a reason.
It doesn't really stop Medusa, but yeah.
Of all the cards currently played in the meta, it is my favorite card for my opponent to play. Basically, no matter what I'm playing, I'm like, oh, you played Hidden Cove? Thank you.
I think it's a lot better right now when people are playing 0 to 2 ice blocks. As Sailor was saying, he's going back to set 1, whereas in like now there's 0 to 2 ice blocks. Back at the beginning of set 4, he was running about 4 ice blocks, right? So Cove is a lot worse when your opponent has multiple ice blocks in play. When they don't have multiple or they only have 1, like Beast doesn't. Cove's not going to save Beast from Medusa if they've got 4 ice blocks in their deck. And that's kind of rough. So maybe cutting the Tragic Beast down a little bit is like fairish, even though that feels wrong.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, we want to talk about a couple spoilers quick before we end the podcast. Probably don't have a ton of time, but okay, R&B, you're excited. Pick a card. Let's talk about it.
Just one card?
Well, we'll start with one, but yeah.
One at a time,
baby. I'm just gonna say something. Naveen is cracked, best card in the set, possibly best card in the game. but that's not what I want to talk about.
Okay.
I want to talk about two cards. The first one being Cusco. So Hades for locations and items. Inkable Hades for locations and items. Yes, please. Thank you. It is a 6 cost, 3/5 quest for 2. When you play it, you put either an item or a location that your opponent controls into their inkwell face down and exerted. Oh, that's not enough. You can also just pay 4 ink to give all of your other characters resist 1 until the start of your next turn, and that can be activated multiple times. Like, the card just does absolutely everything that I want it to do. Like, the blue mirrors become this like dime Tamatoa like nonsense, and if I'm just able to like put your dime into your inkwell, like you don't get it anymore.
Does this make the end of dime? Is this the end of dime
No.
superiority?
No,
you just
absolutely
not play it if
no,
the blue deck just answers it? Like,
nope,
wasn't the joy of dime was the recurability?
Nope, card's still absolutely cracked. Like, you have to play it like differently than you've been playing it before in the past. Don't get me wrong. Sure. Like, you definitely like can't just like
jam it,
slam it on an empty board.
No, not against opposing blue decks. But like, man, I cannot wait for like my red purple opponent to go, Castle, you can't answer it. I'm like, au contraire. Yes, I can. Get out of here. Like, I love that card.
Answers is good.
Yeah,
like
I'm
playing
the card
four
is
cards.
Extremely flexible. Like, it's inkable, so it's a resource. It can protect your board with its random second ability. It can deal with items. It can deal with locations. It has disembody. It quests for 2.
So good.
This card just does everything, right? Like, I also think it's both good for blue decks and bad, right? Because it's so good against blue decks as well, right? Like, it really puts dime in a weird spot. I agree. Like, because the mirror match in red blue was also always about ramping to lucky dime, drop the lucky dime, and then go trade blows and just activate dime.
Is it only opponent?
It's only opponent. Yeah, you can't like use it to like ramp yourself.
Darn.
So, not that I think you would want to.
You absolutely can.
Oh, you can. Okay.
You can.
Oh, you can. That's.
Ooh. That's even more flexible then.
When you play this character, you may put chosen.
I don't feel so dirty when I like put one of my popsicles into my bin to like. I'm gonna do that on like turn 4 so that I can play like a Mufasa on turn 5.
I mean, I think the theme of this card is it's versatile. Like, it just does so many things, and it's inkable, which I think like, and the fact that it is blue, so a lot of these effects you had to already be pulling your other ink in to get.
Color.
The fact that you can just get this in any blue ramp deck is sweet.
No, so like that's my number 1. Number 2 is Sheriff of Nottingham. Your boy likes some items. Your boy likes some big beefy dum-dums. Like, I am going to do my best to play a Sheriff of Nottingham on turn 4 and be like, what doesn't it do?
I have not seen it.
You've not seen Sheriff of Nottingham? It is a 9 cost uninkable 5/9 quest for 4. It has support, but it costs 1 less for each item you have in play.
It does seem like a sweet finisher, like as a
like it's an unink, so cards. I think it's a bit sketchy.
It's like a 2-0.
Yeah.
I'm mostly worried that Tamatoa takes all these slots, but it's definitely close, I think.
I'm gonna play 2 of them just to like test it out. It is like Chernobog, but the difference is like Chernobog gets worse the more copies you have of it in the deck because it's predicated on your discard having characters in it, and then its ETB is shuffle them back into your deck. So like subsequent Chernobogs just cost full cost. This I could see situations where like you wheel and like maybe you play 2 of these for like a total of 4 ink, and you're just like 2 5/9s quest for 8 go.
I could see a deck playing 4 of these, and the whole premise is to just like play them
free.
Play 2 or 3 of them for free on turn 4 or 5. You're like, whole new world, draw up, item, boop, 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 go.
We're a few good items away from that happening, I think.
Yeah, I think we need like another popsicle, and like we're probably there.
Come on,
is this?
They probably shouldn't do that, but yeah.
Yes.
Is it blue or steel?
Let's make Hiram even better.
It's blue.
It's blue.
It's blue.
It is blue.
Hard blue got the heat this set.
Oh yeah,
blue...
by the way, I can talk about 2 really good blue cards that are not these 2.
All right, well, okay,
basically, I think that Red Blue was a bit all in on One Jump Ahead, right? Because their 2-drop was just non-existent. Yeah. And also 3-drop was also pretty bad outside of Quill, right? So you would want to skip your 3-drop to go directly to your 4-drop with either Tala, Hiram, or Alfalgo. But now there's 2 more 2-drops that are pretty good. So the first one is Tipo. It's a 1/2 for 2 inkable that when it enters play, you can ink a card from your hand into your inkwell face down and exerted. So it's the Quill ability, but like only once. So it can let you go for just like a redundancy, right, with One Jump Ahead. Of course, it costs you a card in hand, but it also leaves a body that can contest early on versus aggro. So it's inkable. So I think there's a nice little redundancy that the deck needed, right? That could be offered by this card. The other one is Shisha. It's a 2-drop also, but this one is uninkable, and for a good reason, because it's very, very, very powerful. It adds support. It's a 2/1 quest for 1. And it says, if you, I don't have it in front of me, but I remember, if you ink and it's the second time you ink on your turn, you draw a card. So basically, from now on, your Quill is basically free to use every single turn, which is very powerful. And also, I think that it means that Hiram is not as needed always, right? Like it's like an alternative in card draw, and so maybe this opens up a Hiram changes, right? If we have something that we can use on top of Hiram, right? Maybe Hiram gets an errata or something, right? So I think there's potential in these 2 cards because they fill a gap that was only filled with One Jump Ahead, right?
I liked the ability to play that. You could play the 2-drop that draws cards on 2, and then the next turn play a second copy and then ink and then sing How Far I'll Go, or One Jump Ahead and draw 2 cards.
Draw 2 cards.
And it like pushes you to like not replace your 1 jumps with that new ramp, and instead it's like 4 1 jumps, 4 of this new 2-drop,
that's what I was
4 Fishbone, and it gives you like just like the redundancy on ramp.
I wonder, like, what would have happened if like they worded that card a little bit differently, where it said, every time you ink, if it's not the first ink, you draw a card. Like, would that have been too good?
Yeah, busted.
Broken. Yes,
busted.
Broken.
Yep, I think we're all in agreement on that one.
All right, I just had to like,
Born
I just
of
needed
Greed,
like a
too
little
good.
reality check to like come back down to earth. Okay.
For a 2
Did you never play
if the
with
card costs
Born
like 4, sure, but
I think you could stop playing A Whole New World if it was saying that, right?
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. Is like,
yeah, absolutely.
You just wouldn't need to play a Whole New World at that point.
Exactly, right? You would play Quill into like How Far I'll Go, and you like.
I'd probably just be like playing
gain lore.
Yeah, Whole New World would actually be bad
at that point.
Yeah, you could easily get milled. Probably you're drawing so many cards.
I think at that point you save it up, like you get a 4-drop in play, then you play it, then it's like How Far I'll Go, activate Quill 1 jump. Suddenly it's like draw 3 and it's uninteractable and it stays on board. Yeah, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
I'll stay.
All right.
It's still very, very good.
He says I'll stay in my lane. It's literally his lane, the ramp lane.
By the way, the support is also relevant, right? It makes it so that the Maui can now kill the castle, right? Because you're not gonna do anything with that 2-drop anyway, right?
I mean, attacking. If it's in play, it could just attack the castle anyway. So, I mean, yes, it gives you a lore while killing with the Maui.
Oh, right.
All right, Wonder, what do you got for cards you like?
Oh, well, we brought it up earlier, and I know R&B likes him. but I want to hear why Sailor doesn't like yield Prince.
All right, Prince Naveen.
I think.
Yeah. All right, so Prince Naveen is a 4-drop uninkable quest for 2, Singer 6.
In Amber.
3/3?
I believe so.
2/4?
Yeah, 3/3 in Amber. And it says when it enters play, you can play a song that costs 6 or less for free. Okay, so I don't think it's a bad card. I think it's a good card that is uninkable in a deck where it wants to play many sons that are also uninkable. And I also think that we have 0 good 6 songs. So basically, it's Whole New World, Zeus, and Grab Your Sword, right? Those are the 3 targets.
A horrible set of cards to play for free.
Bro, if you don't think I'm slamming this dude and playing a Pirate's Life, you're crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm not done. Songs are already free, guys.
It's true, but the thing about Prince Naveen is that they can kill your aerial. They can prevent you from shifting by killing your 2/2s. Prince Naveen can come out of your hand and sing a Whole New World, and there's nothing they can do outside of like Ursula Bare Necessities.
Right.
I agree that it's a shift line. Basically, it's a shift line that you don't need to assemble, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But the cost is the uninkability.
I agree.
There's a cost to it. Like the cost was assembling shift line. That was a cost, right? And it was a pretty big one. Now the cost is uninkability, right? There's still a big cost to it.
Do you know how we answer that? We cut the flutes, we put lanterns in, and that's like half an ink.
That's also uninkable.
It's a half an ink.
He said, let me cut this uninkable card so we can play another uninkable card.
Half of an ink. Lantern's half an ink.
You're gonna make to do concessions that I think will also worsen the deck, right? And so, and basically, a Whole New World on 4 is nothing like a Whole New World on 2 or on 3 versus the Quill decks, right?
That's fair.
So
you play Lantern, guys.
So basically, what it does, it makes it so that the Brawl versus the Ariel, right, is not as good of a play, right? It nullifies that. But honestly, was it really the thing that Ember Steel needed against the Quill decks? I don't think so. I don't think it pushes it over the top. And I think that if Ember Steel want to add something to the deck, it wants something against the Sapphire decks, not against the aggro decks, right? Or whatever. Maybe against red purple it's better. But then, are you really playing 4 Let the Storm Rage On, 4 Whole New World, 3 Grab Your Swords with Naveen? And like, come on, like
maybe
at some points you run too many, right?
But I do think that
I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna storm, and I'm gonna be fucking happy. Dang it! I keep swearing.
I think your point about it not being good against Sapphires is, I hear where you're coming from, but I think you're maybe missing some of the deck building constraints that you no longer have to abide by in these decks that could make you better against Sapphire. So I agree. Prince Naveen on its face does not really improve your Sapphire matchups, but the fact that you could maybe cut a shift line, opening up 4 extra slots in your deck, actually opens up quite a bit of room to play cards that would help you in those matchups. Like, you just don't have to play a pile of shifters if you don't want to anymore. I mean, maybe you will. I don't know. It'll depend on how things shake out. But like, if you wanted to cut, either the Queen or the Robin Hood, depending on what the meta looked like, that does open up 4 slots in your deck to have the same number of enablers.
But Daisy, maybe? Oh, another uninkable.
Okay, look, I hear what you're saying, but I just think that there is some options that this opens up.
Steel Song.
If it's, I don't even know that the card's gonna be good in Steel Song specifically. I am looking at this card like outside of Steel Song. Like, I'm looking at other things. I'm looking at like Amber Ruby. Amber Ruby. I'm looking at like Amber Sapphire. I'm looking at like Amber Emerald. Like, I imagine like I play this thing on turn 4, and I'm just like, Bruno, Bruno, like whatever your best threat is.
Too. Yeah.
Like, that's just the card is just value. Like, we also have to like consider.
Dig Through Time cost 6 or 8?
8.
Does the dig deeper?
Yeah, it's
cost
8.
8.
8. Yeah. Like, the only big spell we have is a Pirate's Life. All the other ones are 8 or higher. or 7
No,
or higher, I should say.
there's Treasures Untold, but it's not going to be played in this.
Return 2 items?
Yeah, return 2 items.
Yeah.
I want to say something, though. As long as we get a good uninkable, or maybe even uninkable, like 6 cost song, right? This could literally change my whole analysis of it, right? I think the card is really has a lot of potential. I think as it right now, it's gonna put so much pressure into the deck building that it's not gonna necessarily do the deck too much favor. Is basically what I'm thinking.
All right. Anything else, Wonder? You got any other cards you like?
There's been so many. The new one that just got spoiled, the Mirror, Prince John's Mirror, 3 costs,
yes.
inkable. If you control a Prince John, it costs 1 less. Honestly, unless they reveal a 1-drop Prince John, that ability is kind of worthless. Like it lets you play 2 of them on curve. You go turn 3 Prince John, turn 4 play 2 of these, but you don't really need more than 1 unless they're gonna Benja. Like if you're afraid they have item removal and they have a full grip, but what it says is it costs 1 less if you have Prince John, and at the beginning of at the end of your opponent's turn, I was gonna say at the beginning of the end step, but at the end of your opponent's turn, if they have, like when they pass the turn, if they have more than 3 cards in their hand, they discard down to 3. And like that's okay-ish. Like if they play their cards and are keeping up with you, like in the mirror match or against any mid-rangey deck that are playing curve, it might make them discard a 2 or 2. They'll play into it, right? They'll know what they need to do to try to not discard cards. The problem is that if they're doing that, then they're going to play into your Ursula double sing sudden chill. You're already playing Prince John. You're going to play discard. So it's going to allow you to then hit their hand when they go down to 3 cards and maybe get them down to none. And once you do that, you're golden, right? If you're playing in, like you could play this on turn 3, turn 4, they're down to 3 cards. It's on your turn. You can play Dad Blast. You Have Forgotten Me. Boom, put them down to 1 card. Going into their turn 4, they have to basically keep an inkable just in case they don't draw an inkable, and they play it, and they're like, they have what they played in the first 2 turns, and you just like beat them on the spot. That can be very devastating. Like red purple's like every card I play draws a card. We're actually having interesting things, but they also printed another card, the Magicka, that says your opponents can't make you discard cards as a 4-drop. So maybe that's going to be like the way to fight it. The problem is a 4-drop's not really going to answer your 3-drop, although it does if you're on the play in this regard, since it triggers at the end of your turn.
What does the Magicka said though?
I do believe Magicka's.
If an ability your opponent controls would cause you to discard, you don't.
See the reading on it.
Like I have the exact
also
wording.
Makes a whole new world. Like
it's during your opponent's turn.
During your opponent's turn, if an effect
yeah. I guess I need to learn how to read cards. Get got, red purple.
Well, look,
yeah, get got, rabbits.
Most of us have only read these cards like 1 or 2 times. It's hard to know exactly.
Oh, that doesn't even protect against this stupid item.
Yeah, I know.
I hate it even more now.
It is no longer the year of the red purple. Like the year of the rabbit. I mean,
it still does nothing. It's still a card that does nothing except slow, like tax your opponent's hand.
But it's inkable.
Matters.
But it's inkable.
It's inkable, and like here's the thing:
it's bad on
you
the
can now play a whole new world in discard, because like you wheel your opponent and you have this thing in hand, like they're not getting rid of
turn. It's still gonna turn to pick the best cards.
They're playing 4 or 5 cards.
5 cards. Like you pass to them, they draw a card. They're at 8.
Well,
like they're not playing 5 cards. I mean, sure.
I'm also not player. Yeah. I'm inking those cards.
Like,
I mean, Fishbone Quill.
You're an aggro player. I'm not playing real against you anyways.
Yeah, I mean, this card is obviously bad against aggro. They're just not gonna have hand.
Yeah.
No. Speaking of aggro, I figured
could be really good.
I'll bring up my 1 card, which is Amethyst Chromacon. I think I'm the only person on the face of the earth who thinks the card is good. No one else is talking about it, but I think that it's a 2-cost inkable item in Amethyst that just you can exert it to have both players draw a card. It seems pretty bad. I think on its face, like in a vacuum, it's pretty bad. But if you're playing an aggro deck with a really, really low curve, you can break symmetry on this pretty easily. It's like kind of similar to Daisy, except that I think the aggro decks were missing gas more than they were missing aggressive threats. So I actually think it's more important than Daisy in terms of enabling aggro in the metagame, because, you know, if you wanted to play hyper aggro, Amber Amethyst, you already had 8 1-cost characters that quested for 2. So getting another one, a better one, is great. But what you didn't have was ways to draw cards like that really fit your strategy. And I think the Chromacon, especially like maybe paired with Daisy, right? You can really break the symmetry by, okay, your opponent has 8 cards in hand. Who cares? They'll never have time to play them. You're just going to kill them in 4 turns. And you get to gas up. And the more characters you play, the more you slow them down. So I think one thing that's unique about Lorcana compared to something like Magic is that if you're turning your character sideways, your opponents can't, because they have to battle yours. It just buys you time. So like questing with characters buys you more turns. So I think having a way to continually gas up through the mid game,
like Hearthstone thing, right?
Could enable aggro. So I just wanted to throw it out there. Other people don't necessarily like it. Obviously, dies the Benja. I mean, there's downsides. Like, you will lose the game if they stabilize. There's no doubt about that, because you've given them 5 cards or whatever. But I think it's got potential.
Yes, I agree. I like your train of thoughts, but I also think that Daisy fills a role because those 1-drops that you were playing on curve and you were playing 2-on-2, they
die.
They need only they die, right? The 1/4 doesn't die. It's just so hard for Steel to be dealing with that 1/4, right? So
not just Steel, anyone. Like Red's not dealing
Ruby
with it till
care.
turn 3. Red's not dealing with it till turn 3.
Well, the turn 3 might be good enough, right?
Box eating is going to be pretty good.
Red was not dealing with a Lilo before turn 3 either, right?
Bro, all right. Turn 1, you're on the draw. Your opponent goes Fishbone, Quill, draw, go. You're like, Daisy Duck! Your opponent goes Ink, Gaston, go. Good game. You lose. Like, what like,
Gaston?
the format will adapt. Like, if Daisy, the 4/2, like, that just answers it. Boom.
Yeah. I mean, look, there are answers. And so the thing about aggro in Lorcana is, if it's ever good, it's like the most beatable archetype if you want to beat it. There's just no way. If you want to jam 4 grab your sword and a bunch of ways to sing it in your deck, like, you're going to beat aggro. Like, there's no way around it. So I do think that aggro will always have that problem where if it ever becomes the best deck, the meta will just adapt and it will no longer be the best deck. Like, it's like for a tournament kind of deck, not a dominate a metagame style archetype, in my opinion. I just think that we may see an aggro deck with some legs, and it may stick around. I think that the tools are there now. I don't know what the ink combination looks like. I assume it's going to be based Amethyst or base Amber for sure at this point, but you never know. Like, there's great tools in Emerald too, so.
I wish Green Cusco would see play, but at the same time, I really hated playing against that card.
The 5-drop ward one?
Yeah. I hate ward, but
the days are over.
When it was kind of playable, people played aggro decks, and then I could Steel Song, and it was fun to do that. Steel Song's the most fun when people play characters for you to kill. Or banish.
All right, well, I think that'll do it for this podcast, but thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We hope to see you in Toronto or Las Vegas or wherever it is. Please come say hi. And yeah, we'll catch you next time.